A toast to the hunters from your friends at Grainbelt. May the mornings be clear and the fresh air be crisp. May you find solace in the silence. May the stillness settle your soul. May your long shots stay true. May your heart roam free. May you find what you seek in the fields you stalk. May your call to the wild be answered, and at the end of the day, may you share in the thrill of the hunt with your friends. So here's to the 8-pointers and the 12-ouncers. Here's to you and to your thirst for adventure. Bring Grainbelt to the outdoors with our limited edition premium hunting season pack. This season, enter to win a hunting trip for 2 to Brown's Hunting Lodge, wherever you can find premium 12 and 24-pack cans. For more information, visit our website at grainbelt.com/hunting-trip.
Well, I'm a little bit bashful at the moment. I'm worried that I have mustard hanging off my beard. Hey, everybody. Bill Sherck, the man about the woods. Welcome to the MNBound podcast. The stories behind the stories, along with my partner in crime.
That's
Laura
right.
Schara. Where's the mustard?
Well, how much do you want to pay me to tell you where it's at? I may just leave it there.
$6, because that'll get me another Pronto Pup.
How many Pronto Pups have you had so far at the fair?
Just one.
Just one?
Pronto Pup. Keep in mind, I was here at 7 this morning, so I'm doing very well. That's the only thing I've had to eat.
That's impressive.
So
You've got a lot more food options to go for the rest of the afternoon.
Oh, my gosh.
First day of the state fair, too, I always say it's the hidden secret is to come to the state fair on the first day.
Well, apparently the secret's out.
It is out because it's packed and jammed and full of people fair going today. But we're hanging out at the MNBound Log Cabin.
I cannot believe that we are back here. Once a year, we meet on the first day of the fair, and we sit down and talk about favorite state fair moments and memories. We're going to take a few questions from the audience today. We even have a special guest we're going to be talking to. For you, what do you remember about the fair from when you were a little kid?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think, the Minnesota State Fair is a mandatory event when growing up here, and you have to visit the fair every year to capture all the memories. And my favorite memory is probably the horse barn, because I grew up riding horses. I was a barrel racer. My sister and I were doing all the rodeo sports, and also in 4-H. And so we would spend time here with our horses. And the fun part was that sometimes you'd spend the night like sleeping on a bale of hay in the trailer because it would take a long time to get in and out of the fair, so you just slept either in a stall or something like that. So that was kind of a fun memory growing up.
All right, so you were there in official capacity. Me as a little kid walking through there, I was looking at all the kids having fun with their buddies. It was almost like summer camp. But there were two things that always caught my attention. Number one, the smell in there, and number two, the heat.
That's true, but which barn are you talking about here? Because the smell is a little bit different from the horse barn versus the pig barn versus the poultry barn. I would say there's probably a little bit of a scale of scent going on. So which one was the most memorable, Bill?
Obviously, my palate is not as refined as yours.
Well, when you grow up in the farm world, you kind of figure it out real quick.
But could you sleep at night?
No, you didn't, because, at being young girls and there's, running around and there's excitement and there's noises throughout the night, you really didn't, but it was just part of the experience. And it was, it's like having a slumber party with your horse. You're like, sweet. So you wake up extra tired, but you still have a really great time. And, of course, you get to eat all the food here at the fair, which is, a kid's dream. So
what were you doing during the day? Showing horses?
Yeah, you would have a certain time that you would go in for your event. So there was certain things like halter or Western pleasure, there's barrel racing, there's pole bending, and it just goes on. And different horses come in throughout the days at the fair to do different events. So you weren't here all 12 days, you were here just for a few of those days. But at that point, then you would walk around and, find trouble where you could. But it was great. I think everybody has their favorite state fair memory. If it's their favorite food, if it's their, coming up here to the Northwoods, of course, all the tractors and things that are up here to look at. So it's like iconic to our state, and that's why it's so popular.
Unbelievable. I did not know that you stayed.
We did that at the county fair, too. So at the Anoka County Fair is how you qualify for the state fair, and then you'd spend the night there as well.
Wow.
It was good times. What's your favorite food here at the fair, Bill? Speaking of food.
Whatever's next. I've always been a sucker for the cheese curds.
That's a staple for sure.
I can remember I was probably in my teens, and the newspaper actually printed the recipe for the cheese curds here at the state fair.
Please tell me you tried this at home.
So, growing up, when you have a cabin, a family cabin, when you get into those teen years, the parents need to go to the cabin, and you're home for sports and things like that. So, yes, I waited till they were gone to the cabin. Mom and Dad left, and I tried
deep frying cheese curds.
Hot oil with the batter in the kitchen, and it was a disaster.
Was the house still standing afterwards?
So, yes, that time, yes.
Oh, no.
There is another story about burning the house down, but we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, it would be an hour-long story, I'm guessing.
What I was baffled by is I knew how to cook quite well, but they tasted nothing like any sort of cheese curd you would ever get at the fair. So, yeah.
Was it better or worse?
No, it was awful. It was like dough. It just didn't work. So anyhow, there you go.
That's why you can only get those special things at the fair, like the deep-fried candy bar. Could you imagine trying that at home? I mean, it would probably be a total disaster. But you got to leave it to the experts. That's why you come to the fair, to get the special fair food.
Yeah, I'm looking around, and this is all tradition, right? The John Deere tractors are right across from the MNBound cabin. And I'd come as a little kid, crawl up into the cab of one of the bigger tractors. We'd go down to see how they made ice cream with the old tractor. There are just a lot of memories. And it's crazy because things have changed here.
Yes, they have.
Some of the areas I remember as a kid are long gone and commercialized.
But the haunted house is still here, isn't it?
The haunted house is still here.
That is iconic, the haunted house. It is a scary haunted house, by the way, at least when I remembered it.
It was funny. We were walking down there earlier to get a few pictures, and I heard somebody in the crowd talking about how they have had a lifetime of nightmares because of that haunted house.
I think back in the day when I would go through it, I feel like they could actually grab you, like grab your arm. And that was terrifying. Like they could physically touch you, and out of the, it's completely dark, and they're grabbing your arm, and you're just like, ah! So yes, I also have nightmares from the haunted house, and I have not gone back in there for years. I think because of that reason. So
maybe after
I'm a little chicken to go in there.
After the podcast, maybe I'll buy a couple tickets to the haunted house, and you and I will take our first work date and go to the haunted house. But first, we're going to make some new memories at the fair.
Yeah, speaking of memories.
And they're already happening. And I'm a little weirded out and intrigued by what's going on today because just to your right, there is a tall gentleman in a Minnesota Gopher ball cap. Shout out, homie. And he has something in his hands, and he is doing something very special.
He is sketching in pencil, both you and I, podcasting. Kickliy, the artist, is visiting us here at the MNBound Log Cabin.
How are you doing?
Amazingly well. You are a part of the MNBound story this year at the fair. You have an incredible story to tell. As a little backdrop here this morning, early on when Laura and I showed up, people started coming into the fair. We always shoot what we call our television wraps for the show, which is the portion of the show where we're on camera. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the show. Here's the story we've got. Meanwhile, you have an easel out with paintbrushes hanging out of that ball cap, and you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people ask. It's like, what are you doing? Are you painting me?
And I'm painting a picture right now. Like you're talking to us, but you're not looking at us. Your head is
I'm
in
looking
your
at you.
sketchbook.
Yeah, no.
And your pencil is going like.
I have pretty good peripheral vision, so I can actually look at Laura right now's eyes and look at my sketchbook.
All right. You are an artist by trade, and you're creating this new Minnesota legacy.
Yeah.
Right? You want to document everything Minnesota.
Yeah. Minnesota is my muse. So if you have some kind of connection to me in my history of growing up here, you'll probably be painted or drawn at some point.
And I believe we originally discovered you, Kickliy, when you painted the Minnesota Bound log cabin here at the state fair. And
Yep.
you have an interesting story on Minnesota Bound and your connection to that through your own black lab.
Yeah, I had a black lab when I was a child. As my first dog, well, probably my only dog as a kid. We had a black lab named Tootsie, and so when we first, when I first saw the Minnesota, it wasn't called Minnesota Bound, right? At
It
first.
was called
it?
Minnesota Bound,
Oh,
yes.
I forgot that, but
That's
you know,
right, it's
I
been a lot of
remember-
years.
Yeah, but I remember your dad being on Care 11, and they did the little segment, probably like a 5-minute segment.
Yep.
And yeah, I was hooked because it was like, oh, look, there's Tootsie, you know?
Amazing. And you also have ties to the fair.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been coming, this is my 47th year in a row. So the year that they canceled it, I had just come back from Paris. I was in a car accident 7 years ago now. And I went to Paris to rehabilitate and relearn how to make art. And I started painting there. And when I came back here, it was probably like 2008, end of 2018. And then, you know, the pandemic hit and they canceled the fair. And I was pretty devastated, you know, because I'm like, on my streak. You know, I have 2 streaks that are going strong. I haven't thrown up since I was
That's impressive.
real young.
That's an impressive streak right there, actually.
But my Minnesota State Fair one is even stronger. So I was like, you know, they're not breaking my streak. So the stuff that I learned in Paris with these, you know, all the old artists in their history, they kept sketchbooks and they worked from the sketchbooks, documenting first and then going back to the studio and recreating it, and, you know, like a study of paint first and then bigger paintings, you know, and until they got to the final size, which was their final painting. So I'm like, I'm going to start doing that here. And I made 80 paintings in 3 months.
Wow.
For the year that it didn't, you know, 2020. And then the next year, when the fair came around, I was like, I want to try and do that same amount of paintings in 12 days. So that's what I did. But I did 83. So I bested myself by 3.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And what is it about the state fair that draws you to paint so much of it?
Well, it's like what you guys were just talking about, the haunted house, you know. I'll never go back in there. Me and my brother, for some reason, you know, I was like, I must have been 11. My brother's 2.5 years younger than me, and we were begging, please, can we go in there? My dad, my family was like, just take him in there. My dad took us in, and my little brother started just crying hysterically as soon as, because they could touch you.
That's
they grabbed
right. Okay,
you.
I was right about that.
Yeah,
That's
they
what I
grabbed
thought.
you. They were doing whatever, and my dad, he started swearing and cursing and how the heck, yeah, beep, get out of here, and that
Where's the
terrified
exit?
me. My dad terrified me more of him. He was trying to get out, but there was no way to get out. You had to go through the whole
No,
thing.
they forced you to go through
and
it.
he was causing a storm. Well, the monsters and stuff were backing off from him. And you couldn't see anything at that time. I don't know
Nope.
if you could, but it was like an
No,
area.
you
It was just
couldn't.
all dark except for those moments where they come popping out at you. And so we came out I think he did. He caused such a stir, they let him out a side door. And we went out the side door, and my family was just laughing hysterically because my younger brother was just blood-curdling crying, and I was just terrified for my dad, and he was like causing still a storm. So it's little things like every spot around here has a memory. You know, again, 40, you know, up to that point, 44 years of memories of coming here every year, you know. 3 of my brothers, I have 4 brothers. 3 of them won't come here anymore because they don't like it. Because my dad would bring us, he was a teacher, and for some reason we came here on the last day of the fair every year. So he'd wake us up at 4 a.m, we'd get here, park on the north lot, come in and spend the whole day here. And then the next day we'd go to school. So they were like everything. So they think the fair reminds them of going to school. So to me, I loved it, you know.
It's a great way to wrap up summer. And so you have this book that is for sale in the Minnesota Mountain Log Cabin
Yep.
that is impressions of the state fair. So this is from last year. Whoop, there we go. And for those that are listening, how would you describe your style of painting? Because it is very unique.
I was more drawn to the, no pun intended, but I was more drawn to the impressionists of France and that movement. So it's like I come from more of an illustration or a comic book background. So I'm kind of somewhat melding the two together. I'm not really trying to do impressionism. I'm trying to honor those guys, but it's just, you only have really 40 minutes to document something before the light changes if you're working outside. Now, if you're working from a photo, which I really don't like to do, you can spend weeks on a photo. But when you see something and the light's hitting it right, you only have moments to drop your stuff, get everything ready, and start painting. So by the time you start painting, you now only have 30 minutes to do stuff. So, I've developed like my whole work style, I would say, more than just the painting, of how I go about and do all this stuff at the games and wherever. It's through my time in Paris. I was talking to Bill earlier, and I was saying, I had more failure in Paris than I did here, because I was bumbling around a lot there, like lugging gear that I really didn't need, paints that I didn't need, everything. I started sticking my brushes up in my hat at the fair last year. And, I just put them up here because I kept looking around, where did I put my brush? And so I just started putting them in my hat because I could see them out of the corner of my eye. And then, I'd put 3 brushes up there. When I started covering the PGA 3M golf tournament here, people were laughing, and I was making videos of whispering and saying, which brush will Kickliy go with next? Will he go with the 3-wood? Will he go with the iron? Or, it's like, and I have 3 brushes, just like a golfer would use 3 clubs, a putter, a wood, and an iron. So it just became easy. So people are laughing at me all the time, being like, you must be a painter. And I'm like, how do you know that? And it's just, I have brushes sticking out of my hat.
All right, I want to go back to the accident for a moment, if you're comfortable talking about it, because you've always been an illustrator, but that accident was life-changing. What happened that day?
I always say to people, it was the worst thing to ever happen to me and the best thing to ever happen to me. Because, up until that point, I was ruled by fear and being afraid to do things or take chances. I wanted to go to Paris all my life, because that's where the artists that I looked up to, everyone went through Paris, to be an artist, to really, to take that journey. But I was just too afraid. And I was rear-ended in off of 94 going through the tunnel towards 394. So I guess that's west. It was January. It was a bright sunny day morning, and when he came out of the tunnel, it was just wet, and the sun was out, and it was just glaring, and all these cars were every which way, turned and stopped. So I had moments to make a decision, and I missed everything. And I was like, I can't believe I missed everything. And then I looked behind me, and here comes this truck, and it just hit me. And then the truck behind him hit him and hit me, and then the semi behind them hit all of us again. So it was, my back was pretty messed up from me turning and looking.
But you couldn't illustrate anymore, right?
No, the nerve on my spine on the top of my back went right down my arm, my drawing arm. So I couldn't put pressure on my elbow, or lean with on my forearm to then draw with my wrist. So with where I was injured in my lower back, I couldn't sit for a long period of time. So it just, it drove me into depression, and I went through physical, I tried everything up until that point. I was like going to chiropractor. I hate needles, but they had needles all over me because I was just like, do whatever. Massage therapy, which again sounds cool, but the way that it bruise you from all the hard, deep tissue stuff wasn't fun. I did that for months, still didn't work. And then, my car insurance place sued me, took me to court, saying you were faking it. And so I had to deal with that. And it's like all this, it's funny now, it's like a movie of like how many bad things can happen to you when something bad happens to you. And so I just I started developing this just letting go. I couldn't control it. And, up to that point, like I said, I was living by fear of trying to control everything, of nothing happening to me and being afraid of something that happened to me. And then I started physical therapy in Edina PDR. And, they had like a mental side of things too. And I didn't want to go to it, but the lady was like, well, what else are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, you're right. So I went to it. And the first thing they showed on a board is like, these are the steps. You're going through this, this, and this. And I'm like, how do they know this? And she goes, this is called post-traumatic stress. And I'm like, I thought only veterans got that, people in war. I was naive. So, but it was what I was going through, and it just made me feel like, oh, I'm normal, because I didn't feel normal. So after I finished with the rehab, I still couldn't draw because everything that I was trying to do before was for myself. I was trying to be an independent comic book creator and be the best that I could be and do original stuff and everything. So I had high expectations for myself. And I was doing pretty good, But all that came with the price when the car accident happened, because it kind of merged all the stress of everything that I was going through in my real life or my personal life with the car accident. So I kind of had to get beyond that. So they suggested you need to do something completely different to kind of jump kick your system, because whenever I got around anything to do with art, I felt like passing out. I literally started blacking out and seeing stars and everything. So I'm like, and that's what drove me into depression, because I'm like, I'm never going to be able to do. I literally built myself to do this one thing and be good at it, and now I can't do it. What am I going to do now?
That's what brought you
Go
to
to
Paris.
Paris.
Well, and
Why
that's
not?
what they said, do something completely different. And so I was like, well, I've always wanted to go to Paris. And they said, go ahead. And my wife was like, please go. I want my husband back.
I'm sure.
So, I got her blessing, and I went there. And, my wife has a step-aunt that's French. And her and her daughter still live there. So I reached out to them, and they were like, yes, please come. So I spent the first year back and forth, because I didn't get a visa or anything. I spent 3 months there and came back for a month and went for another 3 months and just kind of kept doing that.
And that's where the painting came?
Yeah, I didn't paint much the first time that I went. It was still very injured. I was still sore, and I was lugging around, luggage and whatnot. And then, but I was going to museums and looking and trying to, it was hard not to be inspired in Paris, It was, you're walking around in history, whether
Sure.
it be like World War II or, whatever. It's just cool to be there. And the light, I always wondered why people went there to paint, and the light is just, there's something about it that within the atmosphere there my theory is that Paris is surrounded by farmland, so there's a lot of dust when you go out to the farmlands and stuff, so it kicks up like a lot of dust and the humidity. So the light must catch that, and Paris being surrounded by that, it must have some kind of, because it's just other world of, I've never seen anything like it. So yeah, it was hard not to. I started painting, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of dabbled with, I tried to watercolor and paint before. I didn't know what I was doing. So I literally just was like, I'm going to start from zero like I know nothing and just start from zero and work my way up.
Which takes us to the next chapter.
This
the
year.
explosion here.
Yeah.
But first, we need to thank some sponsors. You're listening to the Minnesota Bound podcast. I'm Bill Sherck, the man about the woods, along with Kickliy and my co-host Laura Schara.
Hey, it's my turn to talk about the greatest drinking water, bathing water period I have in my home, all brought to me by the Connecticut water system. Connecticut, I've had it for years. You've heard me perhaps boasting about it before. Connecticut, I can't speak highly enough of it. Just from the top, no electricity. That's good. Uses very little salt. And just a little background, where I live along the Rum River, north of Anoka, the water, when I bought that home, full of iron, stained everything, and it didn't smell very good either. The Connecticut folks came in, put a system in there. All of the iron stain went away, the odor went away, and in its place, I ended up with great drinking water right at the kitchen sink, or great water for showers, etc. I just can't say enough about Connecticut. So check them out at
Connecticut.com. Did you know that a propane gas furnace lifespan averages 20 years while electric heat pumps only last about 14 years? And propane furnaces work in all temperatures while delivering warm and consistent heat in your home. Why buy two heating systems when propane furnace can do it all? Lasts longer, works better, and costs less. These things and more are being done today with propane, the right energy right now.
Come visit Oliver Kelly Farm near Elk River, where you can learn about the past and the present of agriculture in Minnesota on a real working 1860s farm. Explore the historic homestead of Oliver H. Kelly, founder of the first successful national farming organization. Also, get up close with the animals, the gardens, fields, and natural areas. Step back in time and experience life on a farm over 150 years ago. Learn more at mnhs.org/Kelly Farm.
Hewitt Docks, Lifts, and Pontoon Legs began in a small south-central Minnesota town with a mission to make dock install and removal easier by inventing the Roll-A-Dock. Well, now the company has evolved to provide everything you might need to improve your lake time. In addition to the classic Roll-A-Dock or the new Ultra Dock system, Hewitt offers all-terrain staircases, gangways, canopies, and lifts, along with any accessory you might need. Celebrate 50 years of business with us. Go to HewittRad.com to enter for a chance to win a free dock and monthly prizes. Hewitt Docks, Lifts, and Pontoon Legs. Work hard, play harder. You deserve a Hewitt.
Okay, welcome back to the Minnesota Bound podcast. The stories behind the story. Kickliy is our partner in crime today,
The artist.
who is staring intently and has his illustration book.
Well, I just want to show you, Kickliy also painted the Horse Coliseum.
There it is.
So
Yeah.
here's what it was like
That's where you were.
when you'd show your horse at the state fair.
See, I started in the north. I didn't know how I was going to do it last year, do it live, because with the first book, the 2020 that I did for my sketchbooks, I more built a narration like you came in the front gate on the east side, the main gates, and then I brought them through like a route, and then you ended on the south gate.
Wow.
And then you ended on the bus. So doing it last year, I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get super exhausted going all over the place. So so I just started in the north and spent 3 days in the north. Then I moved to which I don't know if it's the east or whatever, but moved there. And then I just kind of kept moving around until I got to the south where the midway is. And
Doing multiple paintings
yeah,
a day.
I did about my worst day was 6.
Wow.
I was so tired.
I
And
bet.
that painting, there's a painting of sheep. I was literally painting a sheep. And I told my daughter who was with me, I was like, you got to get me out of here. I'm going to fall asleep. I'm just going to pass out. I'm so tired. And I didn't know, I think if you keep going this way, I just didn't know how I was going to do it at that point. And we got out. I was like, you got to get me around people. No, that's the llamas.
That's a llama.
I was like, you got to get me around people because people are going to start saying, hey, I saw you on the news, or, yeah, what are you doing, or whatever, and it's going to energize me being around people. So that's what I did. There it is.
Oh, there it is. And this year, your goal is food.
Yeah. So, I want to keep it interesting for me. I could keep painting like these style paintings, but I want to the thing that I noticed last year is like I'm not painting any food. I want to, but will that work within this kind of style of book? If I just show one big huge shot of food, and maybe it would, but at the time I couldn't get. It's a lot of trial and error, and it's just like the safe. I took kind of like the safe route of just like I don't want to spend too much energy trying to be creative on the spot because I might get a couple bad paintings out of it, and then it will really start defeating you and draining your energy even more. So I was like, next year maybe I'll do food. So
The other thing I think is really intriguing about your career, aside from the state fair, you love sports, Minnesota sports. And everyone wants you just around at the rink or the arena or the field now.
Yeah. No, it's fun. Me and my family got COVID over the winter, which reactivated, like I didn't have any cough or anything like that, but I had more the aches and the pains. And it reactivated all my injury pains from the accident. So I was laying on the couch for 2 weeks, just being like, ugh, this again. And so my brother then invited me to a stretch of wild games, like a 10 home game stretch. It was towards the latter part of the season. So I was like, sure. And I went and I brought my sketchbook like this, and I just started sketching, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be stuck in my studio anymore. This feels like Paris in a weird way. Like, again, doing the fair last year reminded me of Paris. And so as tired as I was constantly thinking, like, this is going to stink when this is over, because what am I going to do then? And I tried to paint the Vikings last year, but I did it from home, and it's not fun painting from TV because they're giving you one camera angle. So what I learned from then going to the Wild is how to position myself around the arena. And, people got a kick out of me of, because the second game I brought my paints and I just started painting, and everybody was like, I've never seen anything like this. What are you doing? So, and, I just saw Paul Allen and at his booth, and they were saying the same thing. Like last year, I went and did a painting of them at their booth, and they're like, are you painting us? And I said, yeah, and I showed it to them, and they're just like, what the heck? And I went over to the PJ Flex show this morning, and I did them. And Ron was like, is he drawing us? And they were all like, yeah, don't you know about this guy? He's like, no. So, somebody within the MLB reached out to me and said, you're becoming an MLB legend. And I said, huh? What do you mean? And he's like, everyone within the MLB is talking about you. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Very cool.
I'm like, to me, it's hard to do this stuff, right? To go in and stay focused. And especially, it was easy doing you guys because, like Bill was getting up this morning back and forth when I was painting you guys doing your live show. But it's even more difficult to remember a 3-second play.
Sure.
And then have 15 minutes to hurry up and do it before I forget it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have to have. People ask me if I have the memory, photographic memory. Yeah. See, I don't have photographic. I couldn't remember that word. So, and I say no. I just remember it, and then I get it on paper, and then I dump it. And then, so it's kind of more, I would think it's more like an actor, trying to become a role. Like if I'm Daniel Day-Lewis and I want to be Abraham Lincoln, I'm going to be Abraham Lincoln for 15 minutes and then dump it and move on to the next one. So I didn't know what I meant by that, but
Awesome. Well, if people want to come see you at the State Fair, you are planning on painting all 12 days of the State Fair again this year.
Yep.
And you're going to be painting right here at the Minnesota Bound Log Cabin.
Exactly.
And I do remember you saying you're going to be here from, is it 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day.
Every day.
Yep.
How about that schedule, Bill? 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. painting.
It's amazing, but when you look at his work, it makes sense.
It does
Yeah.
make sense.
You are capturing stories,
Yeah.
and they are endless.
Yeah. It's fun.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time for us this year.
Yes.
It's a fun partnership. It started with a black lab, and now
Yep.
look
Here
where
I am.
we are.
Look.
Here we are, full circle.
Pretty soon Ron will adopt me and, be part of the family.
Welcome
Hey.
to the family. We love that.
Before you go, I have to ask you, too.
Yeah.
Kickliy.
Yep.
Where does that come from? Is that your last name, first name, nickname?
So Kickliy should be my real last name. I grew up under Heedy. And my great-grandfather died in a mining accident in Pittsburgh, Kansas, which the town doesn't exist anymore because I'm assuming that it was a mining town. So it dried up and so did the town. So my great-grandfather died in a mining accident, and his best friend that came over with him remarried my great-grandmother, and then she died. And so he adopted the two kids, which was my grandfather and his sister. And then they moved to northern Minnesota to the mines up there, and they grew up in Chisholm. So my dad was born and raised in Chisholm, and so we grew up with the name Heedy. And yeah, so when I found out that story, I was kind of like, really? Because, my life before, it's hard to do art, and it's hard to try and find who you are in art. And I was skipping steps, which a lot of people do. They don't really go through like learning the basics and learning, perspective, and you want to get to the cool stuff as quickly as possible, right? But so I kind of felt like I was faking most of my life artistically, and then I found out my real last name wasn't my real last name, and so I kind of felt like I was a fake. So when I was over in Paris and I was doing those first oil paintings, I kept wiping down my board every single painting and just getting rid of the painting. And I probably did maybe about 60, 70 paintings that way until I got to one that was like, this is actually pretty good. I don't want to wipe this one off. But I didn't want to sign my name. So I was like, I'm going to sign what should be my real last name. And so I adopted who I really am, and so I'm like, I'm going to use that for my artist name, and that's kind of how it came about. So when I sign my name, I sign it backwards, Kickliy backwards, so it's kind of a reflection. I see it as a reflection of me in the artwork. So yeah.
Very cool.
Great story.
Well, thanks for sharing your story today. And again, if you want to meet Kickliy at the Minnesota Bound Log Cabin at the State Fair, he's here every day from 8 to 8. Look at that.
Wow.
He actually sketched both Bill and I sitting here at the podcast in a matter of minutes.
I am so much more handsome in charcoal and bleached white paper. It's unbelievable and so weird to have somebody doing that, but amazing. What talent.
All right. Well, I think we're going to also take some questions from the audience if anybody has any questions regarding Minnesota Bound, about Bill, my dad, myself, Kickliy.
We are going to, but first we're going to thank a few sponsors.
All right. We got a break coming up.
You are listening to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories.
Hi there, Ron Schara here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hey everybody, Bill Sherck, the man about the woods. It's time to plan your fall hunt in North Dakota. Get this, with an estimated 3.4 million breeding ducks, North Dakota's central region is prime habitat for hunting waterfowl. In fact, right now, the state's breeding duck index sits 38% above the long-term average. And the water's up, too. The spring water index is up 616% over 2021. That's a good thing. Now, when you consider that North Dakota has approximately 700,000 acres of private land open to public walk-in hunting, guess what? You've got an outdoor oasis. For the latest information about public hunting lands and private land open to sportsmen and women, visit North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Bag your limit this fall in North Dakota. Visit legendarynd.com.
All right. This is kind of becoming a Minnesota-bound tradition at the fair now that podcasts are a thing.
That's right. This is year 2 of podcasting at the State Fair.
Question and answer time. We have a little crowd around us. Does anyone have any questions about the television shows? Anything else about what we do as a outdoor television production company?
Anyone? You get a free shirt if you ask a question.
A
Anna
free
just
t-shirt?
upped the ante right there.
Well, let me ask a question
Yes. Free T-shirt. You got a question for Minnesota Bound?
I did have somebody ask today about how we started with the cabin and all of that. Do you remember being younger and having to come to the fair with your dad outside of your 4-H work?
It was actually my sister that originally was working the Minnesota Bound log cabin. So years ago, the State Fair approached my dad about doing a retrieving demonstration with Raven at right here where the Lumberjack show was. And that's how it originally started, where my dad was attending the fair every day with Raven and showing her retrieving skills. And then I believe it was a log cabin builder that had a cabin here, but they wanted to fill it with something. And so my dad and my sister came up with the Minnesota Bound log cabin, and then it became a permanent structure at the fair. So that's how that originally got started.
And now
here we are.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
All right, well, first, hold on. Tell us who you are.
My name is Phil Levine,
Phil,
Where are you from, Phil?
Golden Valley.
Excellent.
right where our office is.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. My question is, how many shows have you produced, and how long have you been on the air?
Oh, well, we just recently, actually it's been a couple months now, celebrate our 1,000th episode. And a fun fact about that, shows that have had 1,000 episodes besides ours would be like Wheel of Fortune, Oprah, I think was on the list. Cheers. And our small little TV show called Minnesota Bound. So that was fun to celebrate. But in the years now, are we on 27?
Yeah, a lot of years.
A lot of years.
And what
I think it's 27.
people here know us from Minnesota Bound,
Yeah.
but we do a bunch of other outdoor television shows as well. Due North Outdoors, Destination Players, Made for the Outdoors. I think we counted not long ago, like since I've been a part of the company, I've worked on 14 different television shows.
And where are they on? Are they on network?
All over the place, regional, networks, all over. So when we talk about, how many episodes have we done?
Thousands.
Thousands. And it's amazing. And television is a little bit like restaurants, right? Projects come and go. And that's what's made Minnesota Bound so special, is for some reason it connected with the people in this state. And we've been hearing it all day long. Oh, you guys put me to bed every Sunday night. I fall asleep to you. And that, it couldn't be any better for us. We are so lucky in that regard that we've had such a great partnership with Care 11 that fights to keep us on the air. And after the newscast, we try to tell some positive stories, share stories like his, and put people to bed feeling good about the week ahead.
Well, keep up the good work.
Well, thanks for the question.
Thank you. Another question. What's your name?
Is Justin James
Justin James. Where are you from, Justin?
from Oakdale,
Oakdale, awesome.
Minnesota. My question is, I was curious, what is your best fishing and hunting story?
Ooh, there's a long list of those. Experience or story that we've...
I remember one of the stories from long ago when you were fishing. I think it was the first time you caught
A muskie?
Yes.
Yes. That's a memorable one.
Yes. Do you have any other stories like that where it was like almost life-changing for you?
Oh my goodness. You know, one of my favorite parts of this job is the people you meet and how much you learn on the job, because there's a lot of people out there that are so passionate about what they do, and there's also those that are doing great conservation efforts, and you learn so much from those people each time you spend time together, and you're able to share that with other people, which is the favorite part of the job, is just having all of those learning experiences. And I love seeing people and spending time with people who are so passionate about what they do or their hobbies, and that just brings out this energy in other people that is really contagious. So that's a really joy part of the job. Personal memories of fishing. Of course, my first muskie, that's always a very cherished memory. My dad was there to witness it.
I think we all remember that story.
Right. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. It's probably because I was just cheering, and it had been a lot of years I'd been out trying to catch a muskie, and so when I finally had the opportunity, I had quite a few misses before that opportunity happened, so it was a lesson of don't quit, keep going, and I finally got there, so that was a good one. And another time, so this is just popping randomly in my head, is I went hunting with a gentleman who breeds and hunts standard poodles, because standard poodles were originally bred as hunting dogs, which today not many of them do that anymore, but he still had a group of standard poodles, and we went pheasant hunting together, and the poodle that was only this high was the one that was doing the most of the hunting, and the one that went in the water, and the ones that were really tall didn't necessarily want to go in the water. So that was a fun memory too, just to see his passion for bringing back that birdiness in a breed that has kind of had that bred out. But that just popped in my head right now, so that was a fun one. Bill has, of course, a laundry list of other memories as well.
That's the weird thing about this job. We literally have been all over the world, right? To fish and hunt or meet people, and it's not about our experience. It's about the people we meet, and sometimes it's the simplest things. Last year I got an email from somebody asking about, is there any way we could find an organization that would take a child out on a boat ride? Well, I have a boat, and I learned a little bit about Leo's story, and I said, we're going to take Leo for a boat ride, and we're going to do it Tuesday. Leo, it's a tough story. He was actually shaken as a baby, and he is slowly dying. And one of the things he wanted to do in this world was go for a boat ride. So that's why we're in business, to share those stories and maybe do a little good in the process. And so it's about the people, right? For me, it's, for me now I have sons. They get to take part and do things, and it's all about those experiences, right? Living through them. And the way we tell our stories on TV, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make you feel something about all these people who are out there. I think that's what the state fair is about, right? It is about a bunch of different people who are here today, and we are seeing a lot of strangers, but we all have the stuff in common. And it might sound a little thick, but that's kind of what we do. We share stories.
That's why I watched the show.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. You have any other questions?
So when do you guys think you'll get to Maple Lake?
Maple Lake, just west of the Twin Cities.
Yep, right above Buffalo.
Do you live on Maple Lake?
No, I don't.
Well,
I live in St. Michael.
What are we missing? What's the hidden secret about Maple Lake?
I was going to say it's about 2:15,
I know.
and
How
I
much
could
time do we
probably
have?
be there about 5. Maple Lake happens to be one of my favorite fisheries in the state because I live just about a half an hour away.
Really?
You have a story to share.
No, I just like riding my bike around them lakes up there in the Maple Plain area.
Yep.
Maple Lake. A ton of lakes right there. I'd like to see you guys out there on them lakes instead of the big ones that are way away from here.
Instead of Leech Lake and Mille Lacs and Lake of the Woods.
I've been on Lake Independence. That's a good musky lake. I'll give away that tip. That's a good one. I've had some good luck there.
Maple is, so I got to tell you, have to share this story about Maple Lake. There's an airport on the west side of the lake there. And there's a little shallow bay that tucks up right against the runway. That is one of our top water frogging spots where we go.
That's giving away a good tip.
So I have such vivid memories because we go back there at either sunrise or sunset. So the planes are coming and going, and the lights of the runway are very vivid. And
that's cool.
There are
Top water
such
bass
great-
fishing's the best.
great memories from that lake.
Awesome.
Find us a story. We'll be there soon.
All right.
I think we have another
We
question.
do have
right
another
behind you.
question.
Hi. So I grew up watching your dad, ever since I was a little kid, and it was cool to see his legacy pass on to you guys. So I was wondering, like, what your legacy, or do you guys want? What do you see your future? Are you going to pass on your legacy someday to maybe your kids, or I guess I'm not sure if you have kids or not, but do you want to see your legacy someday be passed on too?
Well, when my dad passed the baton to Bill and I think we both can agree we had some big shoes to fill, and we were, excited for the opportunity. And, I think Bill and myself, we both have, I don't know how to say this. I guess we both have different ways of encouraging people or storytelling and bring our own uniqueness to the show. And for me, I hope, if I had any hope or desire, is just to inspire people to get outdoors and try new things, even if they haven't. Specifically, young ladies to spend time outdoors, or kids in general. I think it's great to get some time away from electronics and what I call a microwave society, where everybody wants things instantly. And when you head into the outdoors, you're taught a lot of really good life lessons from patience, that things are not always going to go your way when you're outdoors, how to be prepared, never quit. Work hard. To catch a muskie, you got to spend a lot of time on the water, and that takes a lot of commitment and discipline. And all of those things really add up when you, to really lead a successful life. So it's really good for your mental health to spend time outdoors. And so if that can do that by sharing the stories, and maybe somebody may want to visit that state park that we were at, for me, that's a good thing. So that is my hope when people watch, that they are inspired to not only take care of our environment, but also go out there and explore it themselves for their own well-being.
First off, I'm a lot older than you.
I don't
so
know
I don't
if you
have to
are,
worry about it,
Bill.
because someday I just won't be there anymore, and you can just take the baton and run.
I don't know. We got to teach Millie how to speak English then at that point.
We're not looking that far out. We're just trying to continue Ron's legacy, right? I was joking when I said, television shows are a little bit like restaurants, but it's a fine line, right? Restaurants come and go. Somebody could call up tomorrow and kick us off the air, and then we're done. So we're just trying to aspire to continue to tell great stories that move people. And I think as long as we do that, the show continues. How long that is, I don't know. Hopefully a long, long time, right? We are transitioning a little bit. The internet's a thing. It's not going anywhere. And so people are getting a lot of their media online. So we're doing things online as well. And it looks like there's an audience there, people who want these stories. So where we end up, I don't know, but we're just trying to continue on a day-to-day doing it as well as we can.
And the stories keep coming. You think about being on air for 27 years. Are you ever going to run out of stories? And they don't. You always, each quarter we sit down as a group and go over everybody's story ideas to make sure we're not doing only fishing stories, or that we have a variety of stories that we're telling. So we meet as a group to go over what stories everybody's going to film for that fall season or spring or whatever. And there's always, every time we sit down, there are very unique stories that either we're finding or someone may approach us about a story. We always encourage people to send story ideas into our Facebook page or Instagram page, So that's been really neat because Minnesota just has so many stories to tell when it comes to the outdoors, and people are very passionate about the outdoors. So it's, for now, we've got a lot of stories to tell, and I think that's going to continue. So
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you go.
We did it. Another podcast, another state fair.
Just starting.
Just starting.
You know, the cabin, the Minnesota-bound cabin, is located in the Northwoods. Kickliy's work will be there. We have a lot of other stuff in the cabin.
A lot of goodies.
That relates to stories we share.
It's true.
So stop by. We hope you find something of interest. And other than that, thank you for watching, really, because the show doesn't happen without an audience.
That's true.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I want to thank all the sponsors who helped make the Minnesota Bound podcast happen. Of course, Connecticut. The Shercks use Connecticut water. You should too. Also, our good friends at Star Bank, the Bank of Minnesota Bound. The Minnesota Propane Association. Hewitt Docks. The Minnesota Historical Society. And North Dakota Tourism.
And last but not least, introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
We'll talk to you next time.